Today we'll be taking a look at the Roadmaster BrakeMaster supplemental braking system for RVs with hydraulic brakes. Now this is going to be a system to help you stay compliant with state and federal laws, to flat tow your vehicle. This is going to apply the braking force in our towed vehicle to make sure that it comes to a safe and complete stop. So it's going to work similarly to a brake controller in a vehicle, like if you have a truck and you're towing a trailer or a fifth wheel camper or something similar to that, that brake controller is going to apply the brakes in your trailer or your camper to help it bring it to a stop so your towing vehicle isn't doing all the work. Same thing with the supplemental braking system. We're going to make sure that our RV isn't having to stop both itself and that towed vehicle. It's going to provide the signal to our towed vehicle so that we can use its brakes to actually bring it to a stop. Basically, the way that works, we'll have this actuator arm that's going to be mounted in our towed vehicle. It has a clamp that goes around our brake pedal, and that is what is actually pushing against the brake pedal to operate the brakes in our towed vehicle and slow it down and bring it to a stop. That is powered by an air supply that comes from our tank and compressor assembly. This unit would be mounted on our RV, and then we'll have a monitor that connects into the hydraulic brakes on our RV so that we can convert that hydraulic force to air and then connect to our actuator and then connect to our brakes. So that's basically how this works. That being said, you do need to tap into your hydraulic system on your RV. We'll get some hard brake lines to make that connection along with our brass fittings to get everything connected up. But that would be something that if you're not familiar or you're not comfortable with making those kinds of connections and working with those hardened lines, this might be a kit that you would want to take to a professional mechanic to actually get installed. It can be a little bit intimidating. Of course, there's a ton of parts laid out here on the table, so it's a little bit overwhelming. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can always take it to somebody to have it installed. But if you have worked on vehicles, you've worked with hard brake lines before, and you feel confident with doing that, it is totally within your means to do. Our system is pretty complete. We'll get all the wiring, the connection between our towed and our RV, our breakaway system. We'll have this box that's mounted up on the front and the wire that goes in between our towed vehicle and our RV. That has its own actuator or compressor tank mounted on our RV or on our towed vehicle so that in the case of an accidental disconnect, our brakes will be applied and it'll bring our towed vehicle to a stop. The one thing that's missing from this kit would be the bracket that mounts around our driver's seat that this actuator connects to. It's a bracket that goes underneath the feet on your driver's seat in your towed vehicle, and they're custom fits. Most vehicles out there will have a custom fit. The way to find that is to go through our fit guide here at etrailer.com, put in your year, make, and model, and then you'll find a bracket that way. They are sold separately from this kit since they are custom. If your vehicle doesn't have a custom fit bracket, there is a universal plate that is available. It's very unlikely that you won't have a custom fit, but with that universal bracket, you do have to drill through the floorboard to get that installed, so that's something to keep in mind. Like I said, most vehicles, they will have that custom bracket from Roadmaster, but just something to keep in mind that you will need an extra component in addition to all of this to get this to work properly. If I was going to compare this to a similar supplemental braking system, I would look at the SMI Stay and Play Duo. That's also going to work for RVs with hydraulic brakes. The thing that I like better about that system is that it's a little bit more user-friendly as far as getting it installed. If you want to do this yourself, the SMI Stay and Play Duo is a bit simpler. That being said, you do have to connect into the brakes on your vehicle. So there's a tube, one of the brake hoses on your towed vehicle in the engine compartment. It's coming off the brake booster. That's typically where you're going to make that connection and tee into it to provide the air for the SMI Stay and Play Duo. If that's something that you don't want to do, you don't want to make any kind of modifications to your towed vehicle, it's totally understandable. This will be a great alternative. You're not going to be making any modifications to your towed vehicle except for that bracket, which just mounts under the existing hardware for your front seat. So That's something to consider there. The other comparison that I would make between the two would be that we do have to set up this actuator every time we want to tow our towed vehicle, and then every time we want to drive it, we have to take it back out. So there is some setup and adjustment that we have to make every time we connect and disconnect our towed vehicle. With the SMI, you don't have to worry about that. Once it's installed, it's pretty much good to go. There is a little control box to adjust the braking system, or to adjust the braking force. So this is a truly proportional system. It's going to be reading directly off of our hydraulic brakes to provide that braking force. With the Stay and Play Duo, it will be a proportional system, but you do have to make some adjustments to get your braking force dialed in. So kind of depends on what you're looking for. I personally like the SMI just because once it's installed, you really don't have anything to worry about making that adjustment. It's just a little knob on a small box that's mounted in your wheel or your floorboard. It's kind of mounted up to the driver's side kick panel. Make adjustments with that knob and you're pretty much good to go. This can be a little bit more cumbersome, but it really depends on what you're looking for as far as setup and what you want to do as far as modifications and install. That being said, customers really like the BrakeMaster. It works well, it does its job. You're not going to feel that towed vehicle pushing on the RV or pulling it. It's just going to feel like you're driving your motorhome normally and you don't even know that towed vehicle is back there. It does have a warning light that will be mounted in the RV so you can see that the brakes are being applied, and if anything were to happen, if those brakes are holding for a prolonged period of time, it actually will flash at you. This will show you every time those brakes are being applied so you know what's going on. And that's going to do it for our look at the Roadmaster BrakeMaster braking system with breakaway for RVs with hydraulic brakes.